I think that the cuts on corporation tax are missing a point because we need that money. We need that money at the moment.
Would you reverse it?
Hold on. Inheritance tax.
Would you reverse them?
I think that at the moment, the cuts in corporation tax, the cuts in inheritance tax, the cuts in capital gains tax.
But what's the cut in capital gains tax?
But what's really important, Andrew...
No, excuse me, I'm asking you a question.
Cutting at a time where we need those services and people need those services is the wrong decision to make.
But I'm asking you, would you reverse the cut in corporation tax?
But I'm telling you, Andrew, that our priority is
you're not telling me the question.
I am.
Jeremy Clarkson drops a bombshell on live TV, exposing Angela Rayner's contradictory statements about Labour's housing policy. How can Rayner claim there's enough housing while proposing to build 1.5 million new homes? As the interview unfolds, watch Rayner squirm under Clarkson's relentless questioning. Will she be able to explain away the glaring inconsistencies in Labour's plan, or will this be the moment that unravels their entire housing strategy? Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favour. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great. Thank you so much. Now, back to the video. Angela Rayner took the stage with unbridled confidence, unveiling Labour's ambitious plan to build 1.5 million new homes. The public's initial reaction was a mix of hope and scepticism.
What would Labour do?
Well, we've already talked about, some of the taxation decisions that the government have made around inheritance tax, capital gains tax, corporation tax, where you've given away money. Okay. This is what Jeremy was talking about in Prime Minister's question today. We treat our older people at the moment like dogs. It's a disgrace. We shouldn't do that.
But, excuse
we should
me,
be investing and putting the money in the primary care
Would you
services.
reverse the cuts on corporation tax?
You've given away money that actually, quite frankly, we need to spend. And it's not just about an ageing population. That is phony. People know about the ageing population for some time. We've cut the criteria so people can't get community care.
Some saw it as a much-needed solution to the housing crisis, while others questioned the feasibility of such a large-scale project. Enter Jeremy Clarkson, known for his no-nonsense approach to interviews. As Rayner began to explain the details of Labour's housing strategy, Clarkson's questions quickly exposed glaring inconsistencies in her statements. The tension in the studio was palpable as Rayner struggled to maintain her composure. One moment, Rayner claimed there was a severe housing shortage, justifying the need for 1.5 million new homes. The next, she asserted that there was already sufficient housing available for everyone. Clarkson, visibly perplexed, pressed her on this contradiction. How can you say we need to build more homes when you've just told us there's enough housing for everyone? He challenged. Rayner's attempts to reconcile these conflicting claims only deepened the confusion. She cited statistics about empty properties and the need for affordable housing, but her explanations fell flat in the face of Clarkson's relentless questioning. The reality of the UK housing market paints a complex picture. Recent studies show a significant shortage of affordable homes, particularly in urban areas. Yet, there are also reports of vacant properties and underutilised land. Rayner's failure to address these nuances undermined the credibility of Labour's housing plan. As the interview progressed, viewers watched with growing anticipation. It became increasingly clear that Rayner was trapped in a logical quagmire of her own making. How could Labour justify a massive home building project if there was already enough housing? Conversely, if there truly was a housing crisis, why did Rayner insist that current supply was adequate? The resolution came as Clarkson laid bare the fundamental contradiction in Labour's stance. He pointed out the impossibility of simultaneously claiming a housing surplus and a critical shortage. Rayner's inability to provide a coherent explanation left viewers questioning the entire basis of Labour's housing policy. But this wasn't the end of Rayner's troubles. As the dust settled on the housing contradiction, Clarkson shifted gears, steering the conversation towards an even more contentious issue: immigration and its impact on housing demand. The stage was set for another round of intense questioning, with Rayner already on the back foot. "Let's talk numbers," Clarkson said, his eyes gleaming with the satisfaction of a hunter who'd cornered his prey. What followed was a revelation so startling it called into question not just Labour's competence, but their very understanding of the housing crisis they claimed to solve. Clarkson dropped a bombshell that left Rayner visibly uncomfortable. He revealed that according to Labour's own budget figures, a staggering 5 out of 7 new homes would be allocated to immigrants. Rayner, caught off guard, immediately denied the claim. "That's simply not true," she retorted, her confident facade beginning to crack under the weight of Clarkson's accusation. But Clarkson wasn't about to let her off the hook. He pressed on, demanding to know where her numbers came from. Rayner struggled to provide a coherent explanation, her earlier bravado evaporating in the face of hard data. The more she tried to deflect, the more apparent it became that she was out of her depth. As Clarkson dug deeper into Labour's own projections, a troubling picture emerged. The party's ambitious housing plan seemed to be built on shaky foundations. How could they justify building 1.5 million new homes when their own figures suggested such a significant portion would go to newcomers? The contradiction was glaring, and Rayner's attempts to reconcile it only dug her deeper into a hole of inconsistency. The interview took an even more damaging turn when Clarkson pointed out that under Labour's watch, the UK had seen an influx of 20,000 new immigrants. This fact, coupled with the housing allocation revelation, painted a picture of a party either willfully ignorant or deliberately misleading about the true nature of the housing crisis. As Rayner floundered, trying to piece together a coherent response, the true extent of the disconnect between Labour's public statements and their own data became painfully clear. It wasn't just a matter of misinterpreted statistics or poorly worded policies. This was a fundamental misalignment between what Labour was saying and what their own figures were showing. The implications of this revelation rippled far beyond the confines of the interview. It raised serious questions about Labour's ability to address the complex interplay between immigration and housing demand. More importantly, it cast doubt on their credibility as a party capable of tackling one of the most pressing issues facing the UK today. As the interview drew to a close, the atmosphere in the studio was charged with a mix of shock and disbelief. Clarkson had not just exposed a flaw in Labour's housing policy, he had potentially unravelled the entire fabric of their approach to one of the nation's most critical challenges. The stage was set for a broader discussion on the need for transparent, coherent policy making in addressing the UK's housing crisis. The credibility gap in Labour's housing and immigration policies is now undeniable. Jeremy Clarkson's relentless questioning exposed a party that seems either woefully uninformed or deliberately misleading. This disconnect between Labour's public statements and their own data has left voters questioning the party's ability to tackle the housing crisis. Public frustration is reaching a boiling point. A viral petition calling for Labour to step down has gained significant traction, reflecting the growing disillusionment with the party's leadership. Recent polls show Labour's approval ratings in freefall, a clear sign that voters are losing faith in their ability to govern effectively. As Jeremy Clarkson aptly put it, when a leader refuses to confront uncomfortable truths, it only breeds more doubt and frustration. This sums up the critical need for Labour to address the housing crisis with transparency and honesty. Without a coherent strategy that acknowledges the complex interplay between immigration and housing demand, Labour risks further alienating voters and potentially facing a reckoning at the ballot box.